Thank you, David. For those of you who aren't aware, as David just mentioned, tonight's event here at the Greene Space is kind of a prelude to the main event, which is a set of 4 concerts on Friday and Saturday, which are taking place downtown at the Winter Garden Atrium at Brookfield Place. So, in fact, both of tonight's artists will be returning to perform even further downtown this weekend, and hopefully you'll have a chance to catch a set or two during the course of the next 2 days. But we're really glad you're here with us tonight. We will have a chance during the course of the evening to get a chance to speak to both Pepe Romero and Marija Temo. But let's start with some music. Marija is making a return appearance on the New York Guitar Festival. We presented her up at the Cloisters a couple of years ago. She's an amazing player who comes from the flamenco tradition, and you'll hear that in a couple of unexpected ways in her set. Please welcome Marija Temo. Temo, live here at the Greene Space, beginning her set and this New York Guitar Festival New Sounds co-presentation with, Maria, one of your own pieces, right?
Yes, that is correct. Mm-hmm.
But based on one of the classic flamenco forms.
That is absolutely correct, yes.
So when people see words like farruca or solea or habanera, I mean, there are certain specific constructs that
Absolutely.
go with that.
There are specific flamenco forms that we follow that also have the rhythmic forms as well as the chordal forms. And that particular piece is more strong in nature and has tempo changes. And traditionally it was danced by men, and then women started to dance it more, but it has that strong character. And I like to throw in some lyrical melodies as well. So I composed that for one of my own pieces, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you grow up with this music? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Mecca of flamenco, Akron, Ohio. No, I was...
I have more softballs I can lob your way, too, once we're...
Yes, I grew up in Akron, Ohio, and both my parents loved music very much. My mom particularly had a specific passion for flamenco and used to make my dad drag her to the Jose Greco concerts, when he would pass through in the day. But there happened to be, as fate would have it, a flamenco dancer, professional flamenco dancer that lived 6 houses down the street.
Wow.
From suburban Akron, Ohio. And through neighborly contact, my mom got to know her, and her name's Martha Sadamid. And she started a children's and adult class, and I took to it right away. I just really loved it. And things just escalated through time with opportunities to move into guitar playing, into singing, and so forth.
So the short answer then is yes, you did grow up with this music
Yes.
in Akron, Ohio.
Yes.
It's an amazing sound. It is played on essentially a classical guitar.
That is true. For all general purposes, it is a nylon string classical made guitar. However, there is distinct differences between a flamenco and a classical, for sure, in its construction.
What would those be?
In a quick answer, I would say the neck tends to be a lot wider and thinner. The tops are a lot thinner, so they're brighter, and the woods tend to be different.
Oh, okay.
I myself have a hybrid between a classical and flamenco guitar.
And then there are the techniques. I mean, flamenco has, most people will think of the kind of the machine gun strumming of the rusciato, as it's known. But so it has its own body of technical
Absolutely.
things
The style.
that go, yeah. How closely does that stuff does it transfer to, say, contemporary Spanish classical music? Are there classical composers who have been particularly good at kind of getting that flamenco sound and using those techniques?
I would say that many Spanish composers were inspired by flamenco and have incorporated some strumming effects into their pieces. There's definitely classical repertoire that incorporates it, that they're inspired, but it's more classical Spanish in nature than the flamenco keys or the flamenco forms, but it's definitely inspired for sure.
Well, this is really great that you and Pepe are sharing this bill, because you're giving us some of this flamenco stuff, and then he'll come out with some of those Spanish composers who were influenced by it.
Most likely, sure, absolutely.
So I don't want to give too much away.
Sure.
Your set has a couple of flamenco surprises, but the next piece you're going to play for us, is this another of your own?
Yes, it's called Waves. I've had a very interesting journey in my life, and I've taken the opportunities to go outside of my comfort zone. And one was, this particular piece was more like a request for a movie, a documentary film called The High Seas, about women pirates. And I thought, okay, what can I write?
All I'm hearing there is pirates plural. There's more than one woman pirate?
Unfortunately, the film didn't take off, but I decided to keep the piece.
Okay, so this is for
it's
a soundtrack to a non-existent film.
Exactly, and I kept it, and it's one of my pieces at this point that I really enjoy playing. So.
It's called Waves?
Waves.
All right. Marija Temo, once again, live from the Greene Space.
That piece came about when I was invited to perform with the Zac Brown Band. And I said, what am I going to play in the pop crowd? And I had done some of my flamenco pieces, and I was very fortunate to be invited back a couple of times and try to whip some of that into shape. And that's how that piece came about, a little flamencoized version of a pop tune. This next piece I'd like to do for you is called a soleá, in the form of a flamenco form that means solitude or loneliness. And I very much love to sing flamenco, and this is for those purists out there. The form obviously just is about the pain and sorrow of one's inner feelings. And I did a wonderful collaboration with a dancer who wanted to take part of a recording that she heard from a guitarist named Canito, and the singer we don't know. And she wanted to do something, and I said, boy, that's probably really difficult to play and sing together. And I took it as an opportunity to kind of expand my skills for the coordination. And then she ended up writing a verse of a soleá that is meaningful to her, and then I ended up writing all the melodies to it. And I just ended up making it a solo amongst this dance form that we had done back several years ago. But the interesting thing about the soleá when you hear it, and this particular rendition, is what it means to someone over time. Because in flamenco, you are exposed to these four forms, you are captivated by them, but as you mature and you keep playing and you keep singing, and they become so deep-rooted and so heartfelt. And I hope to express that to you in this version.
Cogí a mi hijita y yo repasa mi memoria y repaso a mi memoria. Y yo repasa mi memoria y con la catita y yo podía escribir. Hay una historia y con los gatitos bebé pasado y yo podía escribir. Hay una historia. Una hoja se cayó en la tierra estaba ahí conmigo en la memoria de bebé. Mi cuerpo, pero entonces bebé, ay, me di cuenta que estaba ahí conmigo en la esencia de bebé. What I probably should mention is that unlike opera singing, where you sing of tragedy, it sounds wonderful still. In flamenco, you actually want to, in the vocal, you want to hear the pain. And so if your voice is rough and raunchy and cracking, it's considered of really like you're in the moment, in the duende moment. So for my last piece, and I'm delighted to be part of the festival this year, just delighted. Thank you, David Spellman. I've also have traveled to other countries on guitar festivals and had the opportunity to, again, try something different. And this, one of the many pieces are different pieces I will be doing tomorrow, but I would like to show you with my voice in a different vein. This particular piece is called Fuiste mi un verano, which is a famous song from Argentina that was made famous by Leonardo Fabio. And I took this song that was with orchestra and how he sang it and just made a kind of a flamenco ballad type rumba with it and just simplified the parts and put it on the guitar. And I find it just very moving. And it talks about a gentleman who goes to a bar and he sees a woman and he wants to talk to her. And before he has the opportunity, she looks over and asks him not to. So then he begins to fantasize about what it'd like to be with her, to not to forget her hair, to her perfume, if he could just kiss her on the lips and savor that moment of in that time. And so it's very romantic. So. Estaba en el mar, me mira pasar, yo le sonreí y le quise hablar, me pidió que no, que otra vez será, que otra vez será, que otra vez será, si al amanecer que nunca más, cómo olvidar su pelo, ay, cómo olvidar su aroma,
Ay, si una vez en mis labios el sabor de su boca, cada piba que pase, ay, con un libro en la mano, me traerá su nombre. Como en aquel verano, no, nay, no, nay, no, nay, no, no, nay, no, nay, no, nay, no, nay, no, nay, no, no, nay, no, nay, no, nay, no, nay, no, no, nay, no, no, nay, 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 Fuiste un verano, tan solo verano. Ay, yo no olvido la playa, el que dejó café. Ay, cómo olvidar su pelo. Ay, cómo olvidar su aroma. Ay, si una vez en mis labios el sabor de su boca. No, nay, 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 no, nay.
Marija Temo, live from the Greene Space. That last song was like a little flamenco number for the Me Too movement, you know? Guy walks in a bar, sees a woman, wants to talk to her, and she turns and says, "Don't," and that's it. End of story, beginning of song. Lovely. Pepe Romero has been a part of numerous New York guitar festivals. As David Spellman mentioned at the beginning of the evening, we've been collaborating New Sounds and the New York Guitar Festival since 1999. And we keep bringing Pepe Romero back for for two reasons. The main reason is he is simply one of the great classical guitarists of our day, the son and brother of great classical guitarists as well. But the other reason is we like him. He's a really nice guy. And he is here once again with us tonight to play a set of pieces, many of which will have kind of echoes of flamenco ringing through them. Please welcome to the Greene Space, Pepe Romero.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So earlier, I asked Maria whether she had grown up with flamenco music, and I wasn't quite prepared for the Akron, Ohio answer. But what about you? You grew up in flamenco country, right?
Yes, of course. Malaga was, well, it was the cradle of guitar, and I grew up listening to my father play, and he was a magnificent classical guitarist. But in Andalusia, the flamenco guitar players and the classical players, we've always had a tremendous brotherhood. And some of our friends that used to visit our house were, one day we could have a student of Francisco Tárrega, the next day it could be Niño Ricardo, or it could be Manolo de Huelva, or it could be La Niña de los Peines, Manolo Caracol. So the great legends of flamenco, together with the great legends of the classical guitar, and painters and artists and poets.
So growing up in a classical family, was it always just assumed that would be, I mean, all of your brothers went the same direction. You all went classical. Did anybody in the family make a left turn into flamenco?
I played a lot of flamenco, and I have made a couple of flamenco recordings. I am in love with flamenco music. And I feel very strong that if you are a Spanish musician, you have to understand flamenco, because our nationalistic music of Spain, of the great classical composers like Rodrigo, Falla, Turina, Albéniz, Ángel Barrios, Torroba, and on and on and on, are heavily influenced by flamenco.
Yeah. To the point that some of Albéniz's piano pieces are so full of flamenco gestures that they now belong more to guitarists than they do.
Yes, because he himself was very much influenced by the sound of the guitar.
Right. So the set that you've put together for us tonight includes some of the greatest hits of the classical guitar.
Yes, yes.
Tárrega's Capricho Arab, of the famous Asturias by
Asturias,
Albéniz.
yes.
And you definitely hear some of what you're talking about there.
Yes.
But I want to ask you about two pieces in particular, the piece that begins the set and the piece that ends it, because the ending piece is by your dad.
By my dad, yes.
Celedonio Romero was not just a great guitarist, he was also an arranger and a composer. And
yes,
this piece that you're going to wrap up with, anybody who has ever seen Van Halen play guitar is going to recognize one of the techniques. And when I asked you earlier today during sound check when your dad had written this, the reason I asked was I needed to know whether this was a pre-Van Halen piece.
It was pre-Van Halen, yes.
And it is a very Andalusian piece, right?
Well, it's an Andalusian piece, but actually it's the memories of my father from his first 5 years of his life. My father was born during one of my grandfather's professional trips. My grandfather was an architect, and he was working in Cuba a lot. So my father was born in the gorgeous city of Cienfuegos in Cuba. And he remembered, he was 5 when he returned to Spain, and he never went back to Cuba, but he had the memories of that early childhood. And this piece that I am ending is called Fantasía Cubana.
Yeah.
And it's really a mixture of the Cuban music that he heard there, and then when he returned to Malaga, well, when my grandmother returned to Malaga, he then heard a lot of the flamenco, and this very early on, he became a friend and kind of like the golden child of the students of Francisco Tárrega.
One of the great figures in classical
Yes.
guitar music, and you'll be playing one of his pieces. But so tell me about the piece you're going to begin with.
The piece I'm beginning is the Spanish Dance number 5 by Enrique Granados. And this piece survives. It's one of the most famous Spanish pieces, and it survived thanks to his wife, who rescued it from the trash can. And when we moved in 1957 to Los Angeles, we befriended a son of Granados, who was living in, Victor Granados was living in Los Angeles. And he told us the story that his father thought this piece was too popular sounding. And he just disposed of it, and his wife rescued it. And it's one of his legendary pieces of music.
Yeah.
And this is in a beautiful transcription of my father.
All right. Pepe Romero, ladies and gentlemen. Pepe, thank you. Live performance from New Sounds and the New York Guitar Festival here on stage at the Greene Space. Pepe Romero. Live from the Greene Space. Marija Temo, come up and take a bow. Marija Temo, Pepe Romero. Thank you both so much. Great set, great performance. Wrapping up with Celedonio Romero's Fantasia from his Suite Andalusia. Beautifully done. Maria, Pepe, great to have the two of you back. More to come this weekend, right? As the New York Guitar Festival continues downtown. It continues here in the Greene Space on the evening of June 7th, collaborating with the magazine She Shreds, the magazine of female guitarists and bass guitarists. So I hope you'll join us for that here on the stage. It'll be a very different sort of music. Although, as it turns out, Spanish will still be the primary language of the music. That'll be here on June 7th. Let me thank our director, Eileen Delahunty, and our tech director, Chase Kulpan, and all of you for being here with us tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Good night.